Good afternoon. This is the Dania Beach City Commission Workshop, City Manager Candidate Recommendations on Wednesday, January 9th, 2019 at 3 p.m. Tom, can you please call the roll?
Mayor Llewellyn.
Here.
Vice Mayor Odman.
Here.
Commissioner Brandemart.
Here.
Commissioner Harris.
Here.
Commissioner James.
Here.
City Attorney Ansborough.
Here.
Thank you.
Today we have a presentation of City Manager Candidate Recommendations by Renee Narlock.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Good to see you again. Lots happened since I've been here last. We've had some elections. We had a major hurricane up in North Florida and all in between, holidays and everything else, but it's very good to see you again. As you know, we went back out to supplement the pool of candidates for city manager and made a determination, the previous commission did, to wait until elections, until the new commissioners were seated, and congratulations, Mayor and Vice Mayor. And then we also decided that we would give it through the holidays. So I got back here just as fast as I could so we could talk about candidates. I think we have just a different mix of folks this time, which is good. Sometimes it really does come down to timing. And that's the case. We have candidates this time that thought about it last time. The timing was not good for them. And so, again, it sometimes just comes down to timing. So what I would like to do is, I know that you got a link with resumes. I know that was a lot to wade through and to look at, and maybe some of you had time, maybe some of you did not. But what we did in order to kind of be fair to anybody new to the process was we just added on to the list of previous candidates. In the back of your booklets, there's a candidate list, and any names with an asterisk next to them were new applications that we received since the last time that we were here. And those are the ones that I focused on. I will tell you that I reached out to the, I'll say, finalists from our last time around. I don't really consider them finalists because we never actually got to vote. But I did reach out to them and ask them about their interest in the position going forward because I felt that was just a courtesy. I don't think there's anyone who's not interested in being Dania Beach's city manager, but I pretty much across the board got the message that they were not looking to go through another process to get there. So I want to make it clear that no one who you considered last time as finalists has said they don't want to be your city manager. But the general consensus was that there was an opportunity then to hire them, and they just are not wanting to go through another process. So I wanted to mention that to you. That said, I have some folks that I have put in this little booklet that I gave you. This is not new information. It's stuff that was in the Dropbox link. But these are people that I have talked with and would just want to run through these very quickly and tell you what I know about these folks, why I would even recommend that you give them consideration, but the ultimate decision is yours on who you interview. If we come to a conclusion today that we want to move these 5 forward and there's not a magic number, then that's fine. We'll figure out a date. We'll bring them in and talk about process. If you need some time to consider this and then get back to me, I understand that also. I would say that I would need us to do that sooner than later because just the nature of applying for a job like this, the state of Florida, everything's open, everything's public, and that's not bad. I love transparency. But you can imagine if you and I applied for a job and the whole world knew about it or could know about it immediately, including your boss or your council or your commission, that creates some challenges for folks. So what I'm saying is I want to make sure that time-wise we move ahead at a pretty good clip so as not to leave candidates hanging out there or expose them any more than we have to. That said, I'm going to take a breather here and just ask if there's any questions before I launch into talking about folks. Okay. Mayor, I'm going to move ahead, and again, I'm just going to go through these briefly. For those of you that have had time to look at the resumes, you may be familiar with some of these. For others, maybe not. I will just tell you, in looking at the candidates that are in the booklet that I gave you, I have not worked with any of these candidates before, meaning they've not been a candidate of mine in a search, with the exception of Susan Grant, who was a DCM, a deputy city manager at Coral Springs for many years. when I did the city manager recruitment for Coral Springs 18 months ago, the 2 deputy city managers were both candidates for that position. So I do know Susan in that regard, and I know a little bit about her. Subsequent to that, I've not worked with her or recommended her in any place. So I'm just going to go alphabetically, and then we'll circle back around, and I'll be glad to answer any questions or, talk about anything that we need to look at further. Our first candidate is Anna Garcia. She is the former city manager of North Miami Beach. Again, I've not worked with Anna before. I did get a chance to interview her, though. She has been out of the country for about 3 weeks. She took a great trip that I was extremely jealous of to Antarctica and Chile and other places and just returned. So there was a gap there that I was unable to communicate with her, but I did catch up with her. I found her to be a very credible candidate. I think that she did some great things in North Miami Beach. I think if you read some of the articles on her, which I did, I think there were some community members that stepped up and said that she did some great things there. She's in the market to find her next landing place. She's very selective, and she's taken a good look at Dania Beach because of all that's going on here, that you're on the cusp of some really great things in this community, and that is very intriguing to her. I find her energy level is, she's very energetic. She is passionate about what she does. I think that's some of the things that I heard in descriptions early on from the commission about what you're looking for. I certainly think she fits the bill in that regard. I think she's a very dedicated public servant. I like her approach to things. I like her history. I like some of the things that she has done. In her last position, she was asked to, I guess asked to leave is the right term. What happened is she had a 7-member board. Majority was very supportive of her as a city manager, and 3 of those individuals had to leave the commission for various reasons. One took a job as a city manager somewhere, another one got in trouble and had to leave, and then the 3rd one, I don't even remember what that was. But what happened is the commission then had to name their replacements. So the support that she had dwindled very quickly there. She is, again, very interested in coming here. We talked about what might be a roadblock for her coming here. She's got very deep roots where she is. She lives in South Miami. She's got very deep roots there. So relocation is something that we would really have to look at. That's not something she really wants to do. It's about a 35-mile drive here for her, which is kind of the same thing that she was looking at from where she was to North Miami Beach. But that's not something, I would say that's not something that rules her out as far as her qualifications by any means. She did recently compete in Miami Lakes. She was not named the manager there because I do believe it had to do with residency. While they didn't, I don't think they had a residency requirement, they wanted someone who would live there. And that was very disappointing to her because she was, she's wanting to find that landing place for her. But as far as her qualifications, her abilities to come in and really do what you need and move things forward, I think she's definitely someone that you should look at. She was at 210 salary-wise in North Miami Beach. She would like to be not at 210, but not at 170. So I would say probably we're looking at probably 180 to 195 for her salary-wise. And again, we don't pick who we're going to interview based on that, but I feel like you just need to know that I think we're in the ballpark of where we need to be salary-wise. Sure.
Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Seeing as though we do have a new board, I wanted to ask a consensus of salary options or what you all would be comfortable with paying a candidate, because that's important as we look through these, because if some are expecting something that we're not going to offer, that automatically kind of takes them out of the competitiveness of this. So I don't know what y'all think about that.
Let me just jump in here because I've done a lot of hiring, and can you hear me now? No. Okay. Well, I'll do the best I can. I've done a lot of hiring, a lot of firing over the years, and I will tell you that, to me, it depends upon the candidate. So I don't really want to put a restriction on a salary requirement at this point, because I think you need to look at all the factors and then make a determination. Because you may find somebody that you may think is looking for too much money, but then when you actually look at their qualifications and what they could bring to the city, you may say, but I really, really want that person, and it might be something that we need to
Right,
do.
I understand that, but like a range, I'm not saying like a set, but like maybe a $30,000 range.
We have 5 candidates that we're looking at. I think we need to hear about all of them, and then we can kind of decide from there if we want to do that. I don't think it's
What do you
necessary right
think?
now. Commissioner Brandemarty?
Yeah. This lady also was a police officer?
And she's had an interesting career.
No, I find that very interesting because she was a police officer
Um,
of
she-
the year of the Florida Chiefs Association. So was she a police officer or was she a chief?
She started out, no ma'am, she started out in Parks and Recreation, and
Second one on the page. And then again, also Mothers Against Drunk Driving Police Officer of the Year. Her background is big in police work, as I'm looking at, if I'm wrong. It's all police, everything is police, police, police. State champion, click it or ticket, very restructured police department, post-citizen crime program, police reserve team. Everything seems to be police until she gets down to the village public works. I don't understand that.
I'm sorry, what page are you on, Commissioner?
The only one, that's the first one here. Major accomplishment, everything is under police, police, police. That makes, well, all right, never mind, I'm not gonna say how I feel about that.
Can I just go back and address your question? I think the mayor makes a good point. I don't want to set a cutoff range, because when we're looking at these candidates, I don't know if there's someone we just love that much. I don't want to limit ourselves yet. So I rather keep it open, and maybe if it makes more sense a little bit further in the discussion. But for now, I don't want to limit anyone and end up taking someone off that could be.
I just want to know your
Yeah,
thoughts, because we haven't.
fantastic. Yeah, I understand.
Go ahead.
Okay. Moving on to Karen Gardner-Young. Again, I've not worked with Ms. Gardner-Young before. She was formerly the city manager of Parkland and worked her way up from planning and zoning director. As you'll see, she does have her JD, her law degree, and certainly, in my opinion, is strong in planning. AICP certification, which is a planning certification, and also an ICMA certification. As a city manager, I wanted to point out that Ms. Garcia also has ICMA certification as a city manager. That never rules anybody in for me. I don't rule them in or out on that. However, I know what it takes to get that, and it is a lot of time. You don't get it easily. You have to work to get it, meaning you actually have to have experience to get it. You have to do a lot of training. You have to do a lot of coursework. There's just a lot that goes into getting that certification. So those were kind of the things that stood out to me as a pretty well-rounded, as an attorney and a planner and a certified city manager. She is one that I mentioned, did give this consideration early on, first time around, and the timing just was not right for her. So I made sure to revisit it and was very happy to hear that she wanted to be in this time. I think she's just a well-rounded city manager, and I do consider her a city manager. She's currently an assistant in Delray Beach, and they've done some exciting things in Delray Beach, and I think that that experience can translate and really help Dania Beach in moving forward. I also talked to her about any things in her past that we needed to be aware of, and I talked to all candidates about this. She said that there's a blogger in Delray, and they're very busy, and so there was there was just some negative comments about her. It's just personal stuff. I don't give it any credence, but she shared that with me. And then there was someone who filed a discrimination lawsuit against a city that she was named in there, and it was social media based apparently, and it was not substantial whatsoever. There was nothing to that. The other thing she mentioned is when she left Parkland, depending on what you read at the time, she was there 13 years, and she did a great job there. There was a change in the commission, and it just became apparent to her and to them that it was time for her to move on. So again, you know, there was no hard feelings there, but if you research her, if you Google her, you'll see that she left Parkland because there was a decision to change directions here as far as city manager.
Renee?
Yes.
So, was she so she was terminated from Parkland?
There was, I would say yes. That's always an interesting
I
term to use
understand.
with the city manager. There was an agreement that she was going to leave.
Okay.
Yes.
So it was
sim-
mutually
It was
agreed
mutual, yes.
upon.
Yes.
Similar
Let's
similar
say
to
it.
Anna Garcia, where she was asked
Correct.
to leave. Okay,
Correct.
so same idea.
Correct.
Okay.
What is it now? I didn't know.
Similar to Anna Garcia, because she was asked to leave because there was a change in commission.
So both of these
Yes.
people were asked to leave, but I want to know, what was the discrimination charge on?
I can find out more about that.
Oh, I'll find out. I'm going to go on the internet.
Okay. And I'm sure she'll provide us whatever we need.
Yeah, because that word is a bad word to me.
Renee, why is she leaving Del Rey?
It's for Dania Beach opportunity. You know, I think Karen's again, not to take away from assistant city manager role or deputy city manager role. They're city managers in their own right. You know, they're just working with the city manager. But having been in that role before, I think she's got, you know, she wants to be in that role again. She's got some personal issues that, not her, but family-wise, that she has to kind of gauge when she takes an opportunity to make a change, and now is a good time for that. And I think she's doing well there. They're not looking to get rid of her or anything like that. But she had thought this over even before the holidays. And she just said, right now, it's not time. I need to get some things. And, you know, because there's just timing for people, you know, whether it's projects, whether it's personal, you know, maybe they need to get through some things, you know. And then she came back around and said, I do want to do this. So I definitely think you should talk to her. I think she's
Commissioner James?
I just like her planning and background and all of that too, you know.
Commissioner James?
I'm really impressed by the selection of candidates, because some of them include, and only because some of them include, people who have worked at one place for over 10 years, and they've slowly climbed the ladder, and they've worked in different departments, and so you know, their knowledge is very broad, because they've been specific to each different department, and to start at the planning and zoning director and to march your way up to, you know, a city manager at Parkland. And I think that the next two candidates sort of did the same thing. It really shows that there was room for growth, and that they were willing to kind of start at the bottom and then end up at the top. And so that's something that's very important to me.
I agree, Commissioner. I think it also, I think there's just a different appreciation for other people who are trying to do the same. You know what I mean? Within the organization, there's a different appreciation for your department directors if you've been a department director. You know, instead of coming into the field at the top, which a lot of people, you know, do go up, but there's some consistency there. There's growth. Those are all things that I look for too. Susan Grant, as I mentioned, I had worked with Susan as a deputy city manager candidate for Coral Springs in 2017. Right after that recruitment, she ventured out to Aventura as city manager. And Aventura was kind of her stomping grounds. It was kind of, you know, the area that she was from, so it made sense to her. She went down there, and she was only down there for about 6 months, if that. Aventura is a different kind of city, meaning they contract everything out. So it's just sort of an administrative role. And once she got down there and got into it, kind of got the feel for it, she realized that's not her cup of tea. Coral Springs, on the other hand, where you can see she was there from 91, spent 25 years there, basically. It was eligible, I believe, to retire out of there, or to at least, I hate to use the word retire. People think that means you stop working. But she was probably eligible to draw a retirement from there. But as you can see there, she even, as you mentioned, Commissioner, moved up the ranks even from HR over to financial services into a DCM role. What I will say about Susan, and she'll say it about herself, is I think she's very strong with internal functions, and that would be HR and finance and IT, and those are very, very important to any city manager. What I would also say about her is, if she had a name of weakness, it's probably on the development side of things, even though she was very involved in some of the development that went on in Coral Springs while she was there to some degree. But I would say, in looking at her as a candidate, I would advise you to look at, what kind of hire would she need to make to complement her skill sets? Would there need to be a director of development hired? And I don't know, maybe you have one already, so we wouldn't have to do that. But that's just something I would say as far as balancing her out as a candidate. That said, I think she's one of the most dedicated people that you will ever talk to. I think she is very committed. I think she's very resourceful. I think she's the kind of person that will dig it out. She'll get to the bottom of it. I think she's just very, very, very strong administratively speaking. And again, just a great personality. I think she's just a good person in general, cares about people. And to not tout Coral Springs, but that's a good organization. They have some things in place there relative to customer service and just connecting with the community, that anybody who has been there and part of that, they have that ingrained in them. So that's, I think, also a high point for Susan. Horace McHugh is our next candidate. He is currently the CAO of Plantation. I've not worked with Horace before. I find him to be an extremely pleasant person, a very approachable personality. It is a strong mayor form of government there. That's the reason it's a CAO title. But I think you can see that prior to that, he had city manager in an assistant role in previous places that were more council manager form of government. So I think he's well-rounded in that regard. I think he's just about as well-rounded as a candidate comes, to tell you the truth. Over time, he was exposed to a lot of different things during his career. As an assistant city manager in various capacities, he was handed all kinds of different departments for oversight. I don't think there's anything he hasn't had his hands on. And so I think he's been very strategic in his career path, and I would highly recommend that. And again, not to take away from any other candidate, but I would certainly recommend that you talk with him. Reason he's interested in Dania Beach, first of all, is Dania Beach. He knows what's going on here. He's been paying attention. He checked it out. But also in Plantation, there's been a change there of leadership. There's a new mayor, I believe. And in his current role, the department directors all report to the mayor, but Horace has responsibility for orchestrating the carrying out of the policies amongst the department directors. So he's a little bit hand-tied right now in how he's able to do that because of the new leadership that has come in. So I'll tell you, he's not jumping ship because it's uncomfortable. Horace is not that kind of person. I think you can also see with them, even in Oakland Park being there for 7 years and a consistency prior to that of being with Fort Lauderdale for many years, we don't have someone who is jumping from one job to the next. I'll also mention that he is ICMA certified as a manager also, which I think is, again, a very big deal. I'm going to go back here and look at my notes real quick and make sure I haven't overlooked anything or anybody up until now relative to backgrounds or anything that we need to talk about further. I do not see anything. So our last candidate in this book, and I do have one other I'm going to talk to you about. I don't want that to concern you now. I'll get to that. But Alex Ray is in the book, town manager of Miami Lakes. He's had an interesting career, and actually I see that in our summary page, which is the gray page under his tab. We have left out something from 2002 to 2008, if you'll notice that. There's a gap. He was actually the town manager of Miami Lakes then also. I apologize for that. So from 2002, he left Miami-Dade County, and he went to town of Miami Lakes as town manager. He was there until 2010. Until 2008. And then he was the building official down in Miami Beach. And basically, town of Miami Lakes called him up and said, will you come back? And he did. Alex is actually in the drop program. I'm assuming that most of you are familiar with that. But he entered the drop program, and he must retire March 31st of this year. So I'm going to talk with you about him from the perspective that I believe it's going to be a little hard for us to navigate his drop program situation. However, he's a very qualified candidate, and thus the reason I put him in this book. That said, what I think I'm going to recommend to you, and I'll be glad to go into details about what that transition looks like, but with drop, once you drop, you have to not work in this capacity for a certain amount of time, which is normally, I believe, 12 months, or you can get back into the game 6 months later with the penalty, with the minimum penalty. That would be August for him, and he and I talked through all kinds of scenarios, and that does not mean he would start work here in August. That means we would have to look at different options for him to come here prior to August, is what I'm saying. My take on that is I would suggest that we go through this process, we interview candidates, and should I say, God forbid, that we're looking for someone in May of this year or June of this year, that Mr. Ray would probably still be available, and that would probably be better timing for him. Based on his qualifications, I could not put him in here because he's in drop or because of the challenge with a starting time. But I will tell you, I find him to be a very, very professional manager. I have not worked with him before. I think he's a very good option. I think he could come here and do some great things in Dania Beach. It's just about timing at this point. That said, there is an other candidates list in your booklet, and I think I already pointed out that the names with asterisks by them were more recent applicants. I do want to talk about one more applicant that I talked to, Jeremy Earl, who used to work for Dania Beach. His resume is not in here because we produced these books last week. I do have a copy of his resume if you haven't seen it or if you want to see it now. Jeremy Earl used to work for Dania Beach. I believe his title at that time was CRA director. Maybe some of you that are here know him or can weigh in on him more. I typically look at if somebody has worked for you and you know them, you probably have a better idea about them than I do. That said, I do want to point out that since Mr. Earl left Dania Beach, I think he's gone to some good places, some challenging places. He left Dania Beach and went to Fort Lauderdale as their deputy director for Department of Sustainability, which is their CRA, citywide economic development, code enforcement, building services, urban design and planning, housing and community development. I'm familiar with that department. That is a tough department, not only because of the divisions that are in there, but I actually helped them recruit their building official. I actually helped them recruit some people for that department. So I understand the challenges in that department. He served in that capacity for a couple of years, and then Hallandale Beach recruited him to their, as an assistant city manager. He's been there since 2017, 2 years now, and I feel like even from the time he left Dania Beach, he's gone on to positions that have commanded growth and have grown him. He, you know, I don't believe he's out looking for other jobs. As a matter of fact, Hallandale Beach is looking for a city manager, and he is, he's not interested in that particular position. He's interested in Dania Beach. I will tell you that what I learned in my conversation with him is, you know, and I'm going to say this before I tell you about an EEOC complaint. Anyone who's been in public sector service for any given amount of time as a leader probably has had an EEOC complaint. It is the course, it's the nature of doing business. Just because there's a complaint doesn't mean anybody did something wrong. It means somebody brought it to the attention of someone and that it needed to be investigated, and if it was done properly, it was investigated. There was a finding, there was either punitive action or there was, you know, corrective action, or for the most part, what I see is there was an improvement in policies. That's how policies tend to get improved, whenever you find that there's a gap or a problem there. I won't get too in the weeds on this EEOC complaint, but I will tell you that he had, according to him, he had been there all of 3 weeks in Hallandale Beach, and there was a coworker who thought that she should have been promoted to a senior position. And 3 weeks after he got there, she filed suit against him. And I perceive it was vindictive in nature. When it didn't go anywhere, she then did the same thing to the city manager. And so I, you know, have no reason to think that he did anything wrong there. However, anything that I know about, you know about. I will not rule him out on that. I could have chosen not to talk to you about him based on that, but I feel comfortable that he's being forthright with me. And of course, as certain commissioners know, as we go forward, if you have an interest in a candidate and there's something like this out there, we go behind the scenes and we investigate that, and we bring you whatever you need to have a comfort level about that. But I will say that it was, I think it was a pretty stark shock to him going into his first role as an assistant city manager somewhere, and all of a sudden that happened. I think it set the tone for his time at Hallandale Beach. But that said, I think the advantage I see to talking with him is, and you know, your weaknesses could be your strengths and vice versa. I am not certain to the extent that his time at Dania Beach is a weakness or a strength. If that may play into him being a strong candidate for you, coming back to Dania Beach after having gone to these other places and coming back in and knowing the history here, knowing how things got to where they are from a development perspective because of his involvement in that. Now, that said, he's not in the book because of timing. These books were prepared last week. I talked to him subsequent to that, and I did want to make mention of him to you. So that is it for my comments on candidates. Any questions at this point?
Anybody? Commissioner Harris?
I mean, I think that those of us that have been up here for a while, and then the two lady, the new, the mayor and the vice mayor, that I think it behooves us to get somebody in here as soon as possible so we can get on with our programs. Best case scenario, how soon could we start doing the one-on-ones, since a lot of the people are local? I can certainly make myself available at any time over the next several days or the next week for sure, to see if we could get somebody on board as soon as maybe Valentine's Day, I think is February 14th, which is in about a month. Does that seem reasonable to anybody else up here?
And not to me, I didn't even get a chance to read the resumes of the other candidates, and I think that would be very unfair to this commission. Just because these 5 people were picked out don't mean they're my 5.
I mean, we got the Dropbox.
No, it does, that thing is no good. I need a book like this where I can read.
I think we can call Chris Latier
That's actually what I did.
and have her print
I
the
had her
whole
print mine.
153 pages out, I think it is.
I had her
did,
print mine.
Bill, but I want to read them all too.
Oh, and we should, and I did. But I think if we have the qualified candidates for Renee, whom we've hired more than 8 months ago or so, that we can start the process over again. Mayor, what do you think?
I was actually going to say that I think Valentine's Day is a little premature. I think it's a little aggressive. I think by March 1st, I think we could do something. Because you also have to remember that these individuals, once we interview them, once we make a decision, they have to give notice. And a position like this usually requires a lengthier notice than 2 weeks.
Because the contract negotiations take a little bit more time, so
Right.
March 1st would be,
I think March 1st is more realistic, March 1st to March 15th, somewhere in there. So
Okay.
just simply because of I mean, these types of positions, I mean, you generally are going to give a good 4 weeks' notice, and then you're, like you said, you're dealing with the contracts and all of that, so it does take a little bit longer. But I do think that we could likely start the interviewing process within, I would say, the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Brandemarty, is that something that you would be able to do?
I mean, do you want to
In other words, we're going with the ones that
Well, we're
she
going to
picked.
decide. We're going to decide that right now.
Yeah,
but
I know, but the point is this, I saw things in these I don't like, okay, but I put a little mark through them. And you know how I am about that. I gotta know the bad, not only how great they are.
Right.
Okay, and the ones that she singled out, maybe that's not a one that I would have singled out. I wanna read them all. I really do.
And you have every right to do that, and I
I
don't have a
hope so,
problem with that.
because if not, I would go to the OIG and let them know.
No,
Well, do you want to, we'll get Chris to print out all
I called
150?
for it, Bill, already.
And then we could have a workshop and we could all sit down and go through all of them if you'd like. I mean, I'm willing to do that.
Right. Well, no, this is,
Well-
hold on, everybody, stop. We are here for a workshop. We are here to hear Renee's recommendations, and
Right.
that's what she has given us. I will actually tell you that I did go through all of these, and quite frankly, the ones that she picked out are the same ones that I picked out. I don't know how that happened, but that is what it is. So regardless of that, I do think if Commissioner Brandemarty has not had an opportunity to read through all these, I do think that she has the right to do that, and she needs to do that. I think it's very important. This is a very important position. We want to make sure that everybody's fully informed. With that being said, I do think we need to start picking dates that we can arrange once this is done, that we can actually do some interviews. And are we going to do a group interview? Are we going to do one-on-one interviews? How are we doing this?
Mayor, if I may make a recommendation,
Please.
I would very much encourage you to do both, one-on-ones and a group interview. We did a group process last time. I thought it went very well. And then one-on-ones were offered. Some commissioners chose to do it, some did not. I will tell you that a lot is learned in a one-on-one. It is a time to have direct conversation. If anyone is not comfortable one-on-one and wants me to be in the room with them, I will be more than glad to do that for whatever reason. But that is just where you really get, and it really is an advantage to the candidates to be able to talk to you and get to know you as people. Because once they know the parts, they understand the whole better. And I highly recommend that we do one-on-ones, whether we do one-on-ones before or after the groups. I want them grouped together, meaning late afternoon one day and then groups the next morning. I want them grouped together like within a 24-hour period, same day or half days that are together, if possible, because that pushes us along quickly. But I do want to do both of those. I do think it's very important to have both.
Commissioner Brandemarty, did you have something else to add?
I like the way that Renee did it the last time. I do not do the group one. I do the one-on-one, and I'll do the same thing this time, one-on-one, not the group.
Okay.
No, not the group. I don't want, oh, no, I'm talking about the ones where they had the men, where the people met with a commissioner. Right.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you meant all those candidates
No,
together with
no.
a,
No,
no, yeah.
meeting with all of us
I wanted
together.
the way you did it the last time. The way you did it was perfect.
Okay, Commissioner. That would be the group interview that you participated in. And then
Yes.
the one-on-ones is where candidates go and meet each of you individually in a room somewhere. And that you did not do.
I do not want that.
And you do
That's
not want to do that.
transparency, and I don't want it.
Right.
No, I won't do that one.
Right,
But I'm fine with the way you did it the last time. It was perfect.
okay.
Vice Mayor?
Do you think that the 2 weeks would be a good enough time frame for you to go through everything?
Yeah, and Mayor, I want you to know, I also called and told them that I wanted it printed out, but when I'm into my box right now, I don't see it there. And I called them about when I sent it to you and said my computer would not open that Dropbox thing, said something about a PDF. All right, so I called immediately and said, first I texted you, I emailed you, said I can't open it. And I called City Hall immediately and told them that I wanted it printed out, and they even informed me that they had done one for you. You got yours?
Yes.
Well, I didn't got mine.
Okay, well,
So
if we, yeah.
if we get it today, do you feel that 2 weeks is enough time for you to investigate and read and go through everything?
Sure, and if I do it even faster than that, I'll just
Okay.
call up Renee and tell her I'm done.
Okay.
Because there's an awful lot. There's not just this 6 that I'm gonna look at, because that's her pick. My pick may be different. And it's also the mayor's pick. It's her pick and the mayor's pick, those 5. It's not maybe mine.
And it may not be everybody else's either. I'm well aware of that. I don't mean to interrupt, I'm sorry. You have to remember something also, Commissioner Brandon Marty, is that a lot of these were resumes that you were provided the last time around that you did this.
I eliminate them because
Okay.
I already wrote down that there are 32 new ones any way you look at it,
Okay.
right? Thank you.
Are
There's
you finished,
32
or do
new
you-
ones. So that I can't do in one night. Maybe somebody else can, but I can't.
Well, when I'm going through the timing in my head, maybe, and I don't know if this is a little bit of a side issue, what are we going to do about a city manager until then? Are we,
We have an assistant.
Yeah.
well,
He's the de facto city manager.
That's right.
right, and it's, I don't know, is everyone comfortable with that? Is that where we're staying? I'm sorry?
That's right. We ain't got a choice.
I'm
comfortable.
just saying, I don't think we really
Can't appoint
have a
one. You
choice
have the rules.
because unless you have 4 people that are willing to say something, otherwise.
Well, that's why I'm asking is what? About 4 people?
So you have to ask him.
Well, I don't know what the specific rule is, but if that's where we're going, if we're going to continue with Mr. Donnelly as the acting city manager, or if we were going to look at until, I want to be optimistic that this will be done by February or the beginning of the March. But if it's not, are we all comfortable with Mr. Donnelly being in the position of acting city manager for,
He's not really acting, it's more of a de facto position because the assistant city manager takes over the position of the city manager when the city manager is absent. So I have no problem with it. I mean,
I
he's
don't
been in that
either.
position.
So that ends it. If we took for a vote, it wouldn't fly anyway then, because you just heard 2 people say they're happy.
well, I can't operate on just hearing, 2 people say that they're
Take a vote.
happy.
But I don't think that's legal. I thought that Tom said, did you explain it to all of us about how that works? Maybe we need it explained.
In the charter, the only way you can be what's called an acting city manager is if there's a prolonged absence or disability of the city manager. There won't be a city manager, I understand it, as of this Sunday, so that won't apply. So there can only be an interim city manager if we use the right adjective, and that would take 4 votes to do that.
Tom-
There is no provision for an interim manager.
What is considered prolonged?
That you'd have to have a manager to be prolonged absence. Since there's no manager, that won't apply.
Do we have the letter from
I don't have an answer to that.
Mr. Baldwin, his official letter?
I haven't received notice that he's either told HR, Human Resources, or Mr. Donnelly that he's
I have an answer.
retiring the 13th.
Go ahead.
I have an answer. The answer is no. There is no letter.
There is a letter.
I emailed, well, I can show you the email from the
There's not a
assistant
letter.
city manager that emailed me.
I
He
received
said
an email as well. There is no letter.
Yeah, he said there was no letter, because I mean, I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm younger, but I've never heard of anyone, resigning to, and not to their bosses. So he hasn't sent me anything. I know, has he sent you all anything? Okay, Mr. Baldwin hasn't. And I asked was there a letter? Because I did hear, we all received that email, and I was told there has not been a letter at all. So I'm not even sure where we stand right now with that, to answer or whatever. Let me counsel my.
Well, I know he has time off that he's entitled to take, like sick days and vacation time, and he's using it up. That's what it looks like to me. And he has the right to do that. It's legal.
Commissioner Harris, you had your light
Yeah,
on.
the lawyer just went there.
It's not related to, it's in relation to the one-on-ones. That, I think is important, because we will, as each of us, deal one-on-one with the new city manager, and I think that's an important vehicle for establishing, getting a feel for it, because, all of us up here that are a little bit older want to have, FaceTime with somebody and see how the interview goes. It's basically a one-on-one interview.
Vice Mayor?
Easily have somebody else in the room if you feel comfortable, the city attorney
No,
or.
any of you can do it, and
Yeah.
any of us don't have to do it. Same thing.
Vice Mayor, did you have something to say?
Well, I just wanted to finish up my thought, and I mean, whether it's a popular opinion or not, or if off mic, if it's not working, I still want to state that for the record, I'm not comfortable with Mr. Donnelly as an acting city manager, or whatever title he currently holds. It has nothing to do with Mr. Donnelly as a man, as a human being. In the position of a city manager, and what I need from a city manager to be a fantastic commissioner and a fantastic vice mayor, I don't feel that I am getting from him. And because I will be optimistic that this process will happen in a timely manner, but I just don't know, I have concerns about that, and I feel that we're not setting ourselves up in the best place by having Colin as our city manager for whatever that period of time is. May Commissioner Harris be correct, and it's February or March.
Okay. First of all, he's our assistant city manager, so once there is no city manager, he does become the de facto city manager regardless of that, unless we were going to get 4 votes to bring in an acting city manager, according to what Tom has told us here. I don't think that's going to happen based upon what I'm already hearing up here. My suggestion is that we go ahead and start looking at some dates that we want to start bringing candidates in. Let Commissioner Brandemarty get caught up on reviewing everything, and notify Renee if there are any additions that she wants to add. I think are we in agreement that we want to go with the candidates that she has suggested here, or no? Okay, so
No.
we'll talk about that in a minute.
No.
But I think we need to narrow down who it is that we'd like to bring in, so just based on our recommendations, and then if Commissioner Brandemarty wants to add somebody or change it, then we can do that. But I do think we need to start getting some dates put into place and figure out when we can do this, and then we can start moving the process along.
Okay.
And then if there becomes a problem and there's some issue, we can always address it later. But I think we need to allow the process to take place the way that it's supposed to. And that's where we need to be at this point. The other thing that I want to add is, as far as the one-on-ones, and I understand, Commissioner Brandemarty, you have a concern about that. My personal experience has been that it is very important for candidates to, not only for us to interview candidates, but for them to interview us, because they're going to be working with us, and they need to have a comfort level with us. And if they don't, then you don't want to bring somebody in who's not going to be happy here. And even if we really like them, if they have some sort of a reservation, it's not a good idea to have that person there. So I would encourage you to do a one-on-one interview with each of the individuals that we do select. It's obviously your choice, but I would encourage it, only for that reason. Okay? Okay. So what do we want to do next? Do we want to select dates, or do we want to talk about which candidates we want to bring in? Does anybody have a suggestion? Go ahead.
Let's talk about the candidates that we want to bring in and the
Okay.
dates, because it appears that several of the candidates are already available and they are local, so it would kind of expedite the process a little if we could get started.
Okay.
I'll be available. Starting Friday afternoon, if that's possible.
What Friday?
This Friday.
Well,
Yeah.
you sure have a lot of time.
I have a few hours on Friday afternoon. I don't have any time tomorrow, and I don't have some days next week, but I can certainly
I'm
carve
fine.
out, and I do go to work every day. I can carve out a couple of hours either early in the morning or at lunchtime or in the afternoon, or even on the weekends.
Okay, now you're going too far about the weekends,
Yeah.
but
Well, this
Friday.
is not just a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5
No, I
job.
understand. I'm good on
It is,
Friday afternoon.
yeah, it is.
Well,
But the only problem is you can't do the Friday afternoon because they just gave Commissioner Brandon 2 weeks.
well, not necessarily 2 weeks, but I mean, she's gonna need at least, I would say at least a week to get.
No,
this
I know
implemented.
what I'm just
Yeah.
saying, the Friday,
No, yeah, I can't do this Friday anyway, I'll just tell you.
Couldn't he do his one-on-one though? If you wanted to do it, couldn't he do his one-on-one?
usually how the one-on-ones, well, last time, if she was saying that we were gonna do the same, and I didn't meet with any of the candidates last time, but, when the one-on-ones is all here in
Yes.
different rooms in scheduled times. It wasn't one
Oh,
person come,
okay,
right, so you
understood,
had, we
understood.
had, all had schedules of
That worked
sections
so
and parts.
great too, as one came, we interviewed them and then they
No,
left.
that's group. She's talking about one-on-one with individuals in a different room.
Oh, no, you could do that, I don't want that, you know that. We didn't do
Well,
it.
no, we did do it. We just didn't show up and do it. I know that some of the commissioners, some of the commissioners did it, but I know I did
Oh,
it.
it was
and-
Marco that did it, because you didn't do it, he didn't do it, and I didn't do it, that's 3 commissioners.
Tuesday the 15th, does that work for anybody?
Not me, I'll be out of town.
Of what month are we talking?
In January, so that would put it next week.
January what?
All right, what about January 16th?
I'm fine.
That's a Wednesday.
Not so good for me, sorry. I'm better on the 17th.
Not me.
17th in the afternoon,
Okay.
So there's no availability on the 15th and the 16th at all?
no.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
And the 17th is not good
What-
with Commissioner Brandon Martin?
What about the 18th? 18th? What
I'm
about you,
fine.
Mayor?
I'm looking. No, I have something in the morning and something in the afternoon, it's not gonna work.
Okay, so the weekend, we have MLK
We
Monday.
got the gala on
Tuesday,
Saturday and
we have-
Monday
So next week
parade.
doesn't work at all for
and
you,
then
Mayor?
we are,
Well, no, I mean, I said the 16th worked for me.
The six-
The
no, the 17th?
17th. The 17th.
So the
worked for me.
17th doesn't work for you, Commissioner Brandon Marty, at all?
Oh, wait, wait.
I have the whole afternoon free.
No, I can't.
Okay. So next week doesn't work at all, and then the week after, we're going to be limited. We have a commission meeting and a CRA meeting on the 22nd, and then we're going to DC the rest of that week, and so that week wouldn't work because the 21st is MLK.
Yous are going away then, too.
That's what I'm saying,
At
so.
the 22nd, when do you leave?
The 23rd, but the 22nd is a commission meeting and a CRA, unless we're going to do it prior, which I'm okay with. It's just going to be a really long day. I don't know how everyone else's schedule works. The 21st is obviously not going to work because that's MLK Day.
so the next full day, that brings us to
Oh, Commissioner Brandon already has seniors.
28th,
What?
on Monday.
Lord, we done went to a whole nother month.
What if I got the 22nd? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I don't have it. Yeah, big one barbecue.
The 28th on a Monday, does anyone have availability that day?
They always worked out good now that you mention that, the Mondays. In fact, we did them on Mondays, didn't we, Renee? 'Cause you came in on
I
the
appear to be
weekend.
available.
The mayor's available, the
I am.
28th.
Oh, it works out good.
All right. So around what time?
We're going to need a full day,
Okay.
probably starting at 8 a.m. all day long,
Not 8.
8:30.
Are you kidding me? We never did that.
If 28th is for the one-on-ones going from office to office, or do you want to do the group that day? How do you want to do this?
depending on how many candidates we have.
Okay,
If we have 3 candidates, I would say one-on-ones and groups same day. If we have more candidates, I would say groups that day because all of you are available at the same time. And then we can sort of stagger the one-on-ones later that day or the following morning. And then we may not need a time for one commissioner for one-on-ones. Or 2.
Just to make the note, I would need to leave by 6 for childcare, so I would need to leave by 6 for my son.
Oh, who's staying to 6,
I'm just saying, you
Oh,
never
you'll be
know.
home.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
So there's no way we can make this work without going 3 more weeks.
That's right. So we at least all agreed on the Monday, the 28th, right?
Correct.
Right, well, but still, I mean, if we do this on the 28th,
Yeah.
and we then make a decision based upon the interviews on the 28th, you can make an offer the same week, and then the person can give 4 weeks' notice, work out all the contract issues, and you'd have somebody in here before March 15th.
Well, you have to do the one-on-ones after the 28th as well.
Well, we're saying we could probably do them all the same day.
Only if it's 3 or less, right?
Um,
That's what she said, that's what she recommended.
That's what I said as far as time-wise
Right.
about but we can stretch that schedule as much as we can. What I am saying is, it's probably best for us to do the group interviews on the 28th, because I know I have all 5 of you
Right.
that can be here at a specific time.
Sure, right.
Right?
You're right.
And then from there, we'll work through the one-on-ones, because whether you all do one-on-ones at the same time, you need to do them generally at the same time, but if you're available from 7 to 9 and you're available from 5 to 8 or whatever, we can stagger those one-on-ones to get candidates in to meet you. Ideally, we would like the one-on-ones to be going on all at the same time, but there's more flexibility there because I don't need all of you to do a one-on-one. I just need to figure out your individual schedules. So from a group scheduling perspective, I would say group interviews, no matter how many candidates we have, group interviews start early Monday morning on the 28th of January.
Okay. What time you said? 8:30?
And
Come on, I'm not gonna come here at 8 o'clock in the morning just to talk to somebody.
And I
Louis,
know-
take him home.
I know generally, it's better to do one-on-ones after the group interviews. However, although 2 of the board members here will be out of town the week before that, the rest of us will not be, and I actually have a fairly clear schedule that week. And I'd be interested if there is any way that I might be able to do my one-on-ones that week before,
Sure.
just to save some time.
Okay.
And maybe Bill will schedule his at the same time. So
So if
that's
we were,
good.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Lauren, what about you?
Vice Mayor, then could you probably do your one-on-ones before you leave? So you don't have to be the one that did one-on-ones afterwards, if everyone's gonna do it
Right.
before the 28th?
I have lots of availability, so I would like to do my one-on-ones as soon as possible if I can be paired, if I can get,
Okay.
maybe pull in on a day when, since you seem to have some flexibility with your schedule as well, and we could do that. Would that be a
Yes.
possibility?
Vice Mayor, when are you going to be unavailable? When do you?
So I'll start with next week. I have Tuesday the 15th and the 16th and the 17th and the 18th unusually available.
Okay. That's a good start.
Okay.
If I'm not able to coordinate that, I'll call you and get some alternate dates.
Bill, what were the days that you said?
Today.
Oh, the same, okay.
That worked out great.
Perfect.
That worked out great. When do you want my added names?
Mayor?
Just tell me.
Well, why don't we, the 4 of us, I guess, could at least discuss the ones that we want now, and then maybe we can, how soon do you think you'll be able to get through that? Commissioner Brandon Martin?
Well, I gotta read them first. I don't even have the papers. I don't even know
You'll have the
if
papers
Mickey
today.
Mouse, applied.
You'll have the papers today. If we get you the
You ready,
papers
Mike?
today, will you be ready by next week?
You did? You have names ready?
I mean, I have a couple, but we're all different and we're all looking for different qualities and,
Yeah, that's why I want to read it.
okay.
How about, do you think you could have it back to us within a week?
Yes.
Okay, so let's say, what is that, next Wednesday?
The 16th?
You will notify Renee.
But we can't meet on Monday anyway, so that doesn't matter.
But before Commissioner Brandemarty indicates her people, we can't pull in for our, okay, I was trying to
I'm
just
confused.
find any way that I could expedite the process and be helpful, but I guess there's not until that time when we all come to a consensus over who our top three are.
Vice Mayor, so the dates you gave me started on the 15th?
Yes.
Perhaps if Commissioner Brandy Martin could have it to us by the 14th, which is Monday of next week? Is that enough time?
I don't know.
Okay. All right.
I just find that
about-
it's very, very being done unfairly to have 30-some candidates, and I don't have time to read what their resumes are. They all may be better than the 5 I just got.
Okay.
That to me is, city attorney, I don't find that's fair, and I don't like it.
All 5 of you have to be able to participate in the process. That's paramount.
Is that what it says?
So,
Well, they've got to get 4 votes out of 5, and they certainly want to have somebody comes in who has the support of 5.
so,
So all of you have to have the fair opportunity.
So are we not even going to be able to make any decisions today at all as to who we're going to bring in?
And that's where I'm staying.
Okay. Okay.
So so we're not going to be able to even decide anybody that we're going to be able to bring in today?
If I may, Mayor.
Go ahead.
On the 16th is
Yeah.
when she'll get back to me, and 17th and 18th were options for you.
that's fine, and we can just sort of do it on that play it by ear
Sure.
basis. Just call me and let
Okay.
me know, and we'll work it out, and whatever day at Commissioner Brandemarty is ready, we can
Okay.
go ahead with that process.
Thank you,
I have
Vice
no
Mayor.
problem with that, and I certainly don't want her to feel in any way like she's rushed and doesn't have the time to get done what she needs to get done.
I agree.
Commissioner
Thank you.
James?
I'm sorry. Now I'm really confused because if we're going to speak right now about a few candidates, so we're not speaking at all about the few candidates, Mayor, or not?
Oh, I think if we have our
So, okay, so this is my issue with that. Because if we're going to choose, just say for number 4 candidates between us of what we have already decided, and then how is she going to just add hers without us discussing
I know,
that?
that's what I was saying before.
so,
I just said, I don't know that we're going to be able to do this today because
So
we
that
can't
makes, I
actually
don't understand.
limit it. I don't know how we're going to be able to limit it.
Even if she just sends hers, what if we,
Right.
as a consensus, we don't even agree
Mhm.
with it, or if she doesn't even agree with what we have,
Mhm.
and then we're back at, I just don't want to, I know none of us want to waste time, but
Mhm.
this is sounding really difficult right now.
So it sounds like we're going to have another workshop once Commissioner Brandemarty has reviewed everything.
Okay. Okay.
Yes? Yes. All right, let's go back to that again.
Well, just tell me why we didn't have it when the list was finished. Please, can you answer that for me?
I'm not,
Why didn't I get this
That's not,
book of people before we had this workshop? Why? In fact, the list that was on the computer was only 3 days ago. Am I right?
Commissioner, I'm not sure the exact date that the link was sent to everyone.
is the third.
But that was so you could look at the candidates and even know who applied since last time around. There were candidates that, as I mentioned, for various reasons, some of them being out of the country, that I felt you would be interested in knowing more about them.
Okay.
So I had to wait until they returned.
Well, now they have to wait until I read them.
And that's fine, Commissioner. I appreciate that very much so. because-
Unless they want to take a vote now, vote me, they can do it. But guess what? Every candidate comes before us, I'll be a no vote. Just being upfront with you right now. Because to me, it's unfair to me that I can't read the resumes of these people.
Mayor, if I may,
Please.
a week's time delayed here, and not even a delay, a week's time for us to complete this phase of the process, we're still going to be okay. We'll
Okay.
try to make up time as we go forward. I will work around everybody's schedules and do whatever we need to do to move forward. But again, I don't want to put any undue pressure on any particular person, certainly not a commissioner,
Certainly.
about this process. It's a very important decision, and we need to make sure everybody feels like they have had an opportunity.
Can I make a suggestion? Could we set up another workshop like a week from now? But if we could do it after 5, I could probably make the arrangement. Yes.
I'll move anything around. I'm fine.
Renee, can we discuss candidates, a couple of them even now? Is that possible, Mayor?
Well, she just gave us her recommendations, and she discussed some of those candidates. I mean, we can discuss some of the other candidates that other people are interested in, absolutely.
No, I didn't say that. The ones that we got now.
We just did that.
Do you want to see if any one of them could be eliminated? Is that your question?
Yes.
Okay. She's asking of the 5 if we can possibly eliminate,
Okay.
or, I don't know.
Renee?
If I may, Mayor, I would recommend that we wait until she's had a chance to really delve into them. And Commissioner Brandemarty, you are welcome to call me anytime and ask me any questions about anybody. And the reason I say that is I don't want, if she already knows there's 4 people that wants a particular candidate before she even looks at them, I don't want her to feel like, oh, well, we're going to talk to them because 4 people said so, or I don't want it to influence her decision on who she wants to bring forward. So I think by waiting until then, again, we'll make up the time. I'll make sure that happens somewhere along the way here. But I would suggest that you do wait until she's had an ample opportunity to look at them, and then, and at that point in time, everybody give their recommendations at the same time, because then I just think it's more informed across the board, and I think it'll be better.
Commissioner Harris? Oh,
Is there anything that
Vice Mayor.
precludes us from contacting Anna or Karen or Susan privately on our own before then?
There's certainly nothing that precludes that. I do not recommend that.
Okay,
If there's something that you would like me to convey to the candidates, I'll be glad to do that.
okay.
I, again, will do my best to go ahead and get one-on-ones lined up as soon
Quickly as
after the group discussion and the determination of who you're moving forward. And at that point in time, that I think would be the best time to have that initial conversation with them.
Okay.
All right, so now we need to figure out another date that we can come back and discuss this. And you need a full week after the 15th.
It was the 18th, you said
18th
you were
is-
unavailable, Mayor?
I have something in the morning, I have something in the afternoon. The afternoon will likely be done by about 4 o'clock. On the 18th. On the 16th, the 16th is Wednesday. That's planning and zoning's in here
Could we,
that evening.
could we use a different room? Yeah, use
Okay.
the other conference room.
Public meeting.
Um,
Yes, you could use that room.
On the 16th, what availability do you have, Mayor?
I don't.
I'm sorry, were we talking about the 17th then?
The 17th, Commissioner Brandemarty said she was not available.
okay,
Is there
okay.
is it something that can be moved,
No.
Commissioner Brandemarty? No, okay.
No.
Is what can be moved?
No.
Whatever you have on the
17th.
17th.
Oh, I'm going to let the Vice Mayor answer that for me.
No, she cannot. So looking at then, that brings us, if the mayor's unavailable on the 18th to the 21st, we
I'm
cannot.
available on the 22nd. Oh,
Well, but before commission in the
CRA.
afternoon?
the CRA.
In the afternoon, though? CRA is 5:30, but in the afternoon?
I could do that. Yeah, I could do either. I can do either.
Do we anticipate that that meeting will take more than 2 hours?
It's all gonna
Yeah, ma'am.
depend, well, it would all depend, because we're gonna be discussing candidates at that point, correct?
So I will say that it will be more than an hour to 2 hours. And I'll say, let's look at then, that puts us to next week. So,
18th, I'm sorry, I'm lost.
I am not available on the 18th unless it's after 4 o'clock.
I'll say, so after 4, you're available, but then you have to leave by 6.
well, listen, we all have to make sacrifices, and I'll have to find someone who can pick up my son and take care of him, or who can bring him here. And
I'll watch it.
it's a public meeting, so I suppose Milo can be part of the public just as
sure
much as
can.
anyone. Is there no other day besides the 18th? I'll start with you, Mayor, that you can find 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours that you can carve out.
3 to 4 hours?
Yeah, I don't
Wow,
think,
that sounds hopeful.
I don't think it's going to be a 2-hour affair. So-
The only day next week that I could do that would be on the 17th, which is not good for Commissioner Brandon Marty.
Okay, then it will have to be on the 18th, and I will make magic happen, as mothers usually do. So what time do you have, your earliest time on the 14th, Mayor? On the 18th, apologies.
Probably gonna have to be 4 o'clock. I will do this. Could we tentatively say 4 o'clock? If I can get something covered, then I may be able to come earlier in the day.
And maybe update, we would
Yes.
update that time. Does the 4 o'clock work for everyone else, though? On Friday, the 18th? Okay, so it'll either be 4 o'clock, if it was earlier in the day, would that still work for you, if she was able to move it to 2? Okay, so let's say 4 o'clock on Friday, the 18th, and if the mayor's able to rearrange her schedule to make it for earlier in the day, we'll have an email to let us know that it's been changed. All right, yes. But, all right.
Okay,
I mean, honestly, I'll just tell you all here, I try to work so that my busier weeks are the weeks that we do not have commission meetings. So that's part of it. So the weeks that we have commission meetings, I try to be available.
I understand, and if you're able to make it earlier, I would appreciate it, and if not, we'll make do, and we'll be fine.
so what'd you say, 2 or 4?
It's gonna, yeah.
Good question mark.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Tom, could you put this on our schedules, please, so I can tell my... Oh, Chris, I'm sorry. All right.
Mayor, if I may, I will
Yes.
also reach out to Christine and ask her to poll you for some dates for interviews. I know we said the 28th. I'm just going to make sure she has that on everybody's calendar, and we should be good for that. If there's any surprise conflicts, I want to know now, to the extent that we can. So I will reach out to Christine and just verify the 28th, and then also reach out to her and let her know the discussion relative to the 18th, starting at 4 p.m. And then I will ask her to help me coordinate one-on-one interviews in between those two dates, if that works for all of you. I think we can get this done. I think we have some good candidates, and I think we can get this done.
Commissioner Harris, go ahead.
What was the recommendation on contacting one of your recommended individuals? What was your recommendation again?
I would, of course, I can't tell you who you can and cannot call. These are your applicants. I would suggest you kind of go through me, or if there's something you want to communicate to them, you share with me. And then at the appointed time with the one-on-one interviews is a good time to have a discussion with them. But again, I cannot tell you that you cannot call a candidate.
But it don't look nice. I'll tell you right now, if I know you went to them, I don't even want to look at them.
City Attorney, what would your recommendation be?
Exactly what the recruiter is telling you to do.
Does anybody have anything else at this time?
I just want to thank you all for giving me exactly 4.5 days to read all of the things. And
Well,
then
that-
even less than that, because I don't get it till tomorrow. That's all you're giving me, is 3.5
the
days.
18th.
Why?
The 18th.
Because tomorrow is the 10th, correct? So forget that, and I don't have the list yet. So count the 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. That's what you gave me.
Commissioner-
Thank you very
Vice
much.
Mayor, go
Commi-
ahead.
Commissioner Brandmeier,
Am I right?
but just listen to me for a moment. We have a printer in the office now, so if no one is unavailable to print it out for you now, I will go ahead and I'll go print it
It's
out for
still
you.
4 days, any way you look at it.
Well,
But thank you anyway. I appreciate it, all of you.
Let me-
Want you to know
okay.
that.
But I want the process to feel, I don't want at any point for us to look back and say this process was unfair, unequitable, you were not given enough time. So, if I'm harping on it, I want to make sure that you feel you have enough time
Well-
and you have the materials that you
Can-
need.
My dear
I'm-
Vice Mayor, it is only 4 days, and plus take out the fact that we have a ribbon-cutting ceremony and meetings on the 12th, which is Monday. So really, it's 3.5 days. But I'm still grateful for people giving me the 3.5 days to read 35 more resumes. I really appreciate it. Thank you all very much. That's called teamwork, isn't it?
I know. Okay, hold on a second. Hold on. Let me do something here. Renee, let me ask you this.
Yes, ma'am.
If we were to give Commissioner Brandon Marty until.
No, I want to
No, no.
keep going.
No, I know, and we will keep going, but this is my question. If we were to give Commissioner Brandon Marty, say, until the 28th to do this, and then we have a workshop then, and then we set up the actual interviews the week following that, would we still be on a good timeline to get this done before, say, March 1st, March 15th?
I believe so, Mayor.
Okay, so why don't we do that instead? We know the 28th is a good day. And then this way, Commissioner Brandon Marty does not have any pressure to complete this, and she can take her time and review these. We all want to have a good idea of what we're looking at here. This is a very important position. It's a very important process. If Commissioner Brandon Marty needs additional time, there's nothing wrong with giving her additional time, especially if we're still falling within the same timeline that we were looking at before. Does anybody have a problem with that?
Commissioner Brandon Marty, how do you feel? Do you wait till, because I thought that you said you at least needed that 2 weeks, and then you said the 16th was okay, then went to the 18th. So I want to honestly know, how much time do you really think you need to go with them? And I don't know how we got 3 days or whatever, but how much time do you really think you need for it,
Well,
without feeling like you're rushed and all this other
Well,
stuff?
I do feel like I'm being rushed, because you're not giving it to me today, right? You're
They're
going
going
to
to
give
they're going to give it to
tomorrow.
you today. They
I
just,
will have it in my hands today, but any way you look at it, it still gives me 3 days with also an event to go to in order to cut the ribbon at UFIT, right? And to have the tables out front.
so you're saying you're cutting off.
But I want to do it. I want to do it the way that you guys want to do it. I'll do it in the 3 days or whatever. And the ones that I miss them, what can I tell
Well,
you?
no,
But
no, no.
35 resumes is too much for any one person to really be able to read and
Right.
then do a little bit of work that, like, I'm used to doing on a computer, because when I find out about these whether they're OCs, whether they were convicted or not, I want to know what racism was. I'm going to indulge in that big time, like I did on the other ones. You
So
know
you're
that.
gonna, you're okay with us taking it to the 28th?
Well,
have-
but I'm
Well,
not.
you could take,
Taking it to the 28th, that's fine, yeah. I think you need the additional time, and I want you to have the additional time. I think it's important.
okay, but I'm willing to give in and get it done.
But we don't want to mess up the process.
What'd you say, Tom? Yeah, I feel like I'm rushing. Probably afterwards I'd complain. I'd
Okay.
probably tell it at a commission meeting. Any ladies in this audience can read 35 resumes and do checks on them in 3 days, raise your hand, and you won't get one that's gonna be raised.
No.
I
Right.
can't be forced either, right?
No, and that we need the process to
But on
to be
Wednesday, the
followed
16th,
properly.
I will send you the list right away.
Well, no, we're just saying, we're giving you until the 28th.
Yeah, but
And
I'll-
we will come back on the 28th. We will set up another workshop. We will discuss the candidates at that time. And then we can go ahead, and, I mean, even now, we can go ahead and set up the interview dates in February.
When do you
if
want me to
necessary.
call you, Renee?
No
Before-
later than the 28th.
Well, I don't know, I think, because are you going to come back here on the 28th? Is that what I mean, if we're having another workshop, that would make the most sense. You're coming back here on the 28th.
I did not even check my schedule. I will either be here by phone or I'll be here in person
Okay.
whenever your workshop is scheduled. And I would like to, you can call me anytime,
I know.
anytime. But,
I'm gonna email you the names, all
okay,
right?
by the time, certainly by the 28th of this month, when you have your next workshop on this matter,
Before then.
I would like you to have formulated who
Yeah.
you would like to see move forward and be ready for a discussion about that on the 28th with the
Right.
group.
Yeah, I wrote down before the January 28th, I
Okay,
wrote that. in.
excellent,
Vice Mayor Adley.
excellent.
So, just so that we're all on the same page, we're taking off the 18th, and the next time we'll be all meeting together is on the 28th. Are we keeping the time at 8:30?
Yes.
Okay, so 8:30 on the 28th is when we meet again.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Harris.
Did you have your hand up for something, sir? This is a public
Absolutely, it's
workshop, of
public. Come on
course.
up.
You can.
Of
Come on
course.
Louis, absolutely, you can. So can you, Mimi, Patty?
I thought you were saying that you could read that many.
I could.
Okay, I thought you
Louis
could.
Romoli, 29 South Federal Highway, Dania Beach. My question is, she should have the time to review, but what prevents you all from providing, at this time, your candidates that you like to be scheduled for an interview on the 28th? While she has the opportunity to review the candidates that she likes, whether she can't provide her candidates within the next 2 weeks, then they can also be scheduled on the 28th. Or do you want to vote as a board who you want
As
to
a
move
board.
forward?
Correct.
We have to vote as a
That's correct.
board, and that's the problem.
So you can't have your own individual candidates?
No, we have
So
to
what
have a
if, that
consensus.
just doesn't make any
It
sense.
doesn't, Louis, you're right.
You all should be able to provide
It makes
your
sense.
list of candidates that you want to interview regardless of how others feel,
Can I speak?
and then be able to then, on the 28th, select based on the best candidate. That's just my opinion. I used to be an HR director, so I don't think that
Too?
you should prevent, I did. That was my first job. So I think you should all have an opportunity to move forward. I don't think you're going to move 10 candidates. You're probably going to bring it down to 2 or 3 top candidates, which, worst case scenario, you have 18 people. But I don't think that's going to happen either, because I think all of you pretty much know what you're looking for, and I would be shocked to see that you would have more than maybe 8 people that you would bring forward, all individually bringing the same, your individual candidates.
Right.
My opinion. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I think the process requires something else. Commissioner James?
I'm unsure if I am, so
Thank you.
was the question, in my thought and opinion on that was, we were supposed to collectively select the ones to move forward together, because if there isn't a consensus, it doesn't matter who I like or who the rest likes. It's a waste, because if you don't even have 3, you're definitely not going to get 4.
Right.
So I thought that was the process of why we had to, as a consensus, agree or disagree. Because if I bring back 5 and he brings back a different 5, she brings back a different 5, it's going to be it is going to be a 4-hour process.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
Right,
Right,
and
but
that's
the
why
problem-
we do it all together, so we can all discuss and decide. I mean, I don't know, that's how it's,
The problem is, I believe the procedure is that we have to come to a consensus as to the certain ones that we are going to actually all interview. And that's where we are with this. So, what time, we said 8:30 on the 28th is what we're doing? Okay. So let's do that. That will give Commissioner Brandon Marty plenty of time. And then, do we want to try to select a date now for interviews, or do we want to wait until the 28th?
Now.
Now.
Do it now? Okay.
Now,
So that would mean,
so we don't book anything, right?
I'm guessing that would mean the week of February 4th was
Okay.
where we would start. Is that fair for everybody?
Which is the commission meeting? Carl, is the commission meeting?
So starting
I'm
with the
free.
4th on Monday, are there any scheduling conflicts there?
Only I had the morning is not good for me.
I'm okay.
How many hours do we need for this?
All day.
All
This
day.
is an all-day thing?
I will tell you
Okay.
the 5th is really good for me.
Yeah, and that's not a commission meeting, that's good, right?
Do anyone else schedule a
Sure, everybody okay?
And the 6th is also very good for me.
Okay, well, if,
Me too.
so if the 5th, which is a Tuesday, works for everyone, we could block that off.
And how about Wednesday for you, 2 days in a row?
Are you leaving?
That could be done,
Do we need 2 days for this?
It
depending
will
on how many.
depend on the number of candidates. I'm thinking 1 day is sufficient.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I work at the hospital on the 6th.
You want Tuesday?
So then the one-on-one
Tuesday.
interviews will have to be after the after the 5th, correct? It will have to be, because if we come and discuss, and now that I'm thinking back on it, when you all were discussing doing your one-on-ones before, we might not even choose those people that you're doing one-on-one interviews for this process. So the one-on-ones would have to come after the group interview. Correct? I mean, because if we come as a consensus on the 28th and decide from that 10, we only want 3, those are the 3 that will be interviewed, and those are the only 3 that will have the one-on-ones.
Those people will come to the group interviews on the
28th?
5th of
Okay,
February.
sorry.
And we can do one-on-ones in that week prior.
That's what I'm saying. It would
Yes.
have to be after. So the
The
whole
20
thing,
The 28th,
it would have to be after the 28th,
yes.
because that's where, okay.
It has to be after the 28th, but it doesn't have to be before
Before-
the 5th.
in between
We
the
could actually
28th
do it
and
after
5th,
the
okay.
5th.
We could do it after the
Right.
5th, yes.
So if we did the group interviews on the 5th, and Vice Mayor's not available on the 6th, but is available on the 7th, for
Yes.
example, we could do her one-on-one ones on the 7th, the rest of us could do them on the 6th, or however we want to do it.
Correct.
So that whole week would actually, and it's actually a very good week for me,
Okay,
as of right now. So I'll block it off.
I have it blocked for all
All
day.
day.
I got it blocked too all day.
Wait, so the 28th doesn't have to be 8:30 a.m. then?
No, it
Because
doesn't
that's
have
the
to be.
workshop.
Yeah, it's a
That's
workshop.
right.
We don't have to do it all, you want to do it later
Yeah.
in the day, it's fine with me.
Yeah, the 28th, I would prefer not to come 8:30 in the
Me
morning
too.
if we
Oh,
don't have to, because
Why didn't you say that before and support me
well,
on that?
because I dropped my son off to school at 8:30, but I was gonna provide you know.
Okay,
Can
Can we
we-
change the 28th to 8:30 in the morning till a little later? What time?
Would 11 a.m. work for everyone?
That's fine for me.
Lunch?
I'd rather if we're gonna, I'd rather not be directly in the middle of the day, if we could do it like
Me
in the
too.
afternoon, so say
So
like.
10?
Well, I'm saying, if we
9?
think it's gonna be 4
I'm fine with
hours.
nine.
I'm
if we're-
fine with 9.
If we're saying it's gonna be 4 hours,
Yeah.
I would
We'd
say
be up by noon if we could start at 9, Mayor.
we could do 9 to noon, or we could do
Good, I'll take
noon to
that.
3, or
I'll take
whatever,
that.
whichever one, but I'd rather be a half a day in there somewhere.
I'll take that, 9 to 12.
Can we do 9:30? Does that really change it for people?
I'm fine at 9:30.
I'm fine at
Thank you.
9:30.
9:30, please.
Okay. 9:30
We don't
to
even need to
12.
ask you, huh, Commissioner Harris? Okay.
Oh, he's got no life. 9:30 to 12.
It's not nice.
You gotta work on our thing, by the way. And nine- Ooh. You sure you ain't gotta go away anywhere to the city? Okay, good.
Okay, so January 28th at 9:30, we'll do another workshop, and on February 5th at 8:30, so that's an all-day event, we'll plan for that.
Sounds good, Mayor.
Unless something crazy happens, we'll leave it at that.
9:30.
To 12. Right,
The
fine.
28th is 9:30,
Right.
and the 5th is at 8:30.
5th, we're still keeping at 8:30, correct?
Yes.
Tuesday the 5th?
That's gonna be an all-day event.
Okay, 8:30, fine.
Are you
Okay.
bringing us a different booklet?
Yes. And everyone will get it in plenty of time.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming.
All right. Is there anything else from anybody? Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Oh,
I-
yeah.
I will,
think-
I will be in person for the interviews for certain, and I will hopefully be in person for the workshop. If not, I'll be conferencing in for that to answer any questions you have, any concerns, anything that is lingering out there, or the grapevine, or whatever may be. We want to make sure that you have the answers, you know. And I do want to remind you that we are in a process here. We're learning as we go forward. As we bring people in, we figure out, you know, is this someone we feel like will work here and do a good job and fit, and the, you know, the chemistry. There's a lot of fact-finding for us to still find out through our interview process. So I encourage everybody to keep an open mind, and, you know, to not settle on a particular candidate right now based on paper or my discussions. Just, you know, let's go through the process and let the process play out here. And I think we'll find at the end of this that you have some very good candidates.
I'd like to add to that. The computer, by the way, is a big help, is it not? I mean, this is the age of that. If you put in there questions that you should ask while hiring a new city manager, you will learn things you wouldn't believe exist. So I'm telling you, and that's exactly what I do. And they loved it. I asked each guy this in person the same question, and they looked like, whoa, where's this coming from? But they
That's
give
good.
you a big list of like 30 you should be asking, because everybody has their own mind what they're interested in anyway.
Right.
Commissioner Harris, did you have
Right.
your light
Right.
on or no? Okay. I forgot to turn it on. Okay, if there's nothing else, then I believe we are adjourned.